Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I thought we'd do a little bit more work on our eucalyptus bowl today. Now it's pretty cold out, which hence why I'm bundled up. I've got a couple of my little pocket hand warmers to stop my fingers from falling off. And what I want to do today is take a look again at the sides of this bowl. And I'm going to be using my draw knife and my push knife. The reason I'm using both of them is really just to demonstrate that you can use one or the other or both. It really doesn't matter. The little Mora Frost push knife that can also be used as a draw knife is a really nice, cheap, but good quality and versatile tool, and I've been using one for a long time. And then a standard draw knife, you know, you can pick these up really cheaply if you go to things like car boot sales or maybe sort of online, things like that. And really, this is a step that you, especially if you're following along with this and you're sort of carving your own bowl, you really don't need to do this. But the reason I wanted to try it today was that I want to smooth these walls down a little bit more. Mainly because I want to see what the bowl would look like if I was to keep it in this style. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to keep it like this, but seeing as I'm at this stage, that's what I want to do. So really, it's hopefully going to be a fairly short video, just giving you a bit of a demo as to how I would smooth down the sides of these bowls. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera a little bit closer in, and we'll make a start. Right then guys, so I'm going to start off with my draw knife, and if like me you're using a carving stump, I found the easiest way to use something like this, rather than messing around trying to lock it in somewhere. If you've got a bowl horse or a shave horse, they're obviously really useful. I don't have one, and actually I find sitting next to my stump, putting the piece of work sort of resting against here, and just using your stomach to just sort of lean into it ever so slightly just to lock it in is actually a really nice way of keeping this at the right height, the right angle and everything else. Now obviously if you're using a workbench or something like that, you can clamp it down. There's probably a multitude of ways you can lock this in, but this is how I prefer to do it. And the simplicity of using something like a draw knife is really that all you're doing is starting not quite from the top. So if you start up here right at the very tip, what will happen is you can very easily split something off. So I always start just below the end of my piece of work, and all you're doing is just very slowly and quite lightly for this kind of work is just pulling the draw knife towards you. Now I'm taking off some really fine shavings here. Obviously you can put more pressure on and you can cut off larger pieces. However, because this is quite knotty wood and the grain has been working against me for the whole project, I'm going to be doing this kind of quite slowly. And as I say, all you're doing is just pulling it towards you, and I'm keeping this at a fairly kind of flat angle. I'm not bringing it right down like that. Well, maybe that's a bit too far, but I'm not coming in at sort of 45 degrees or anything like that, because that will cut far too deeply into this. So really you're almost using this like a plane, and what it will do is as it comes along it will hit the high spots. And you may notice as I'm rolling this along, I'm not getting a great deal coming off until I hit somewhere like down here where there's a little high spot, and you can see that it's only this part of the blade that's cutting, the rest of it's not doing anything. And the other really nice thing about this is that you can angle it as you need to. So at the moment I'm kind of focusing on the bottom of the bowl. If I tilt it this way a bit, I then start cutting towards the top. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to carry on doing this for probably 5 or 10 minutes. I'll skip through a bit of the footage and I'll come back when we've got something a little bit more how we want it to be. Now hopefully you've just seen there guys that we've got some quite large chunks have just come off, because I've turned this around and I'm working the other way. Now this is where things like the push knife comes in, and what you can do if you're going one way and it's biting too deep and it's taking off chunks, you can take your push knife and you can simply just work it the other way. And I mean, this applies to any kind of woodworking. You know, if you're making a spoon, a bowl, whatever you're doing, if you're cutting with any kind of edge tool on a piece of wood, especially sort of semi-green wood like this, and you're finding it's biting in too deeply, it's trying to split along the grain, what you really should be doing is changing your angle of attack and probably going in the opposite direction, or at least another direction to the one you're going in. And by doing that, you can then start cutting some nice clean shavings off again without getting that splitting. Right then guys, well that's about it for today. As I say, this was just a bit of a sort of a test for me to see whether I like the look of this. And I must admit, although I do, I think I'm going to stick with my original plan, and that is to use my gouge to make the walls slightly concave. I'll give you a bit of a close-up. So this is the side with the knot in, and I've done a bit of work to this. Obviously the knot is causing problems, as I knew it would. However, if I flip round to the other side, this is actually looking a lot nicer now it's been smoothed down. Give you a look at the cross sections, you know, they're starting to flatten out. The side that's got the knot on is still a little bit more rounded, and that's fine. You know, the gouge will make fairly short work of that, or at least I hope it will. But you know, we are starting to see, you know, much more of a bowl shape. And you know, as far as functionality goes, I mean, you could use this as it is now. You know, as you know, most of my carving, I like to sort of tidy things up a bit, make them look at least a little bit sort of nice. So I think next episode we'll bring out the gouge, and we'll start making a bit of work on the side of these walls. So I hope it was useful, guys. Comments and questions in the box below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.